It was an ordinary day at the small-town cemetery. The weather was overcast, and the usual quiet of the place had an almost eerie quality. The mourners stood in somber silence around the coffin, their hearts weighed down with grief. They were there to say their final goodbyes, to lay their loved one to rest. But amidst the heavy silence, something unexpected happened. A dog, a medium-sized mutt with a patch of white on its chest, stood at the foot of the coffin. It wasn't the kind of behavior one would expect at a funeral. The dog wasn't sitting quietly or resting beside its owner. No, it was barking. Not a playful bark, nor an excited one, but a persistent and urgent sound that echoed through the cemetery. The mourners exchanged confused glances. Why was the dog barking? Was it confused? Was it grieving? Some of the family members tried to comfort the dog, but it wouldn't stop. It continued to bark, its eyes fixed on the coffin, as if it was trying to say something important. There was something different about the way the dog was acting. It wasn't the typical response of an animal in mourning. The family stood in silence, unsure of how to react. But the more they watched, the more they began to realize that this wasn't a random outburst. The dog's behavior wasn't just a reaction to the funeral. It was a signal, a message, perhaps, that no one could understand yet. The dog wasn't merely grieving. It was trying to communicate something. Little did they know, this small act of barking was just a beginning. The dog was about to reveal a secret, a truth buried for years, hidden from everyone. Something so unimaginable that no one would believe at first. But it was coming, and the dog would be the one to expose it. As the dog's persistent barking filled the air, a heavy silence fell over the cemetery. At first, the mourners exchanged awkward glances. Some were confused, others a little irritated. Funerals were meant to be moments of reflection, quiet mourning and respect. But this dog seemed oblivious to all of that. It continued to bark, loud and insistent, its body rigid, as if it were trying to convey something beyond words. One of the family members, a woman in her early 40s, walked up to the dog and tried to comfort it. She bent down to pet it, her voice gentle as she cooed softly. "It's okay. Little one, calm down." But the dog didn't respond to her touch. Instead, it stepped back a little and continued barking even more urgently. It wasn't the bark of a frightened dog, but one filled with purpose, as if every bark was a plea for attention, a desperate attempt to communicate. A few people in the crowd muttered under their breath, casting annoyed looks at the dog. "What is it doing? This is disrespectful," one man whispered. But there was something about the dog's demeanor that kept people from intervening too harshly. It wasn't just a dog at a funeral. It was as though the dog was trying to alert everyone to something. The elderly man who had known the deceased for many years, Mr. Anderson, was standing at the back, watching this strange scene unfold. He had been close to the deceased for decades, and he knew there was something more to this situation. He had seen many funerals, but this one was different. There was something in the dog's behavior that felt intentional. Mr. Anderson slowly approached the dog, his heart pounding. He had no idea why he felt drawn to it, but something deep inside told him that the dog was trying to tell him something important. As he got closer, the dog stopped barking momentarily, its eyes locking onto his with strange intensity. Then, without warning, it resumed its barking louder than before. By now, the dog had captured everyone's attention. The crowd stood frozen, as if waiting for something to happen. Mr. Anderson bent down carefully to the dog's level and spoke softly to it. "What is it, girl? What are you trying to tell us?" But the dog didn't respond to words. It simply continued to bark, its focus unwavering. The frustration in the crowd was palpable. People were starting to whisper, asking one another what was going on. Why wouldn't the dog stop? What was it trying to communicate? Mr. Anderson, still kneeling, suddenly felt a chill in the air, as if something was on the verge of happening. He looked at the coffin, then back at the dog. It wasn't just barking at nothing. It was staring directly at the coffin, as though it was guarding it, trying to protect it, or even trying to stop something from happening. He stood up abruptly, his mind racing. What could this mean? And why was the dog's attention so focused on the coffin? He turned to the family members nearby. "We need to move the coffin," he said with a sense of urgency. The family was shocked. "What do you mean?" We can't just move the coffin now. It's disrespectful. But Mr. Anderson, who had always been a man of reason, was insistent. We have to. Trust me, there's something we need to find. Reluctantly, the family agreed, and the staff began to lift the coffin. The crowd watched in a mix of confusion and disbelief as the coffin was gently moved to one side, revealing the ground beneath. As the coffin was carefully lifted and moved aside, a sense of suspense hung in the air. The mourners stood still, unsure what to expect. What could possibly be hidden beneath the coffin? The dog's incessant barking had led them to this point, but it wasn't clear what the next step would be. Mr. Anderson, his hands trembling slightly, knelt down to inspect the ground. He motioned for the cemetery staff to clear away the dirt around the coffin's base. They hesitated at first, unsure what they were looking for. But when Mr. Anderson insisted, they complied. It wasn't long before something caught their eye. A small, weathered wooden box, half buried in the dirt. It was old, almost ancient in appearance, with intricate carvings along its surface. The box had clearly been there for some time, hidden beneath the ground and forgotten by everyone, even the family. The dog's barking grew louder as they uncovered the box, its body wriggling with excitement. It was almost as if the dog knew exactly what was about to happen, as if it had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The mourners exchanged looks of confusion and curiosity. What was inside the box? Why had it been buried here, hidden beneath the coffin? Mr. Anderson reached for the box carefully, his fingers brushing against the worn surface. It was heavy in his hands, and the carvings on the box seemed to shimmer in the dim light. With a slow and deliberate motion, he opened the box. Inside, there were a series of letters, yellow with age and bound together with a piece of string. As he carefully unfolded the top letter, he read the first few lines aloud. To my dearest brother, I hope this letter finds you in good health. I know we haven't spoken in years, but I can no longer keep this secret. The letters, it turned out, were written by the deceased's estranged sister, a woman the family had not heard from in over 30 years. The sister had tried to reconnect, sending letter after letter, but her efforts had been rejected. The deceased had kept her letters hidden, burying them away as if trying to erase the past. But the dog's barking had uncovered them. The dog had known that these letters held the key to a secret long buried. They weren't just letters. They were messages of love, regret, and forgiveness. They told the story of a family torn apart by pride, old wounds that had never been healed. The deceased had kept these letters hidden, afraid to confront the past. But the dog had uncovered them. The dog had known the time had come for the truth to be revealed. As Mr. Anderson continued to read the letters, the family members gathered around him, listening in stunned silence. The words on the pages revealed a deep, painful story, one of love lost, a rift that had torn apart relationships, and the regret of a lifetime. The deceased sister had written about the pain of being cut off from her family, the hurt of being rejected without explanation. She had tried to reach out again and again, but her letters had never been received. The letters spoke of a desire for reconciliation, for healing, but they had been ignored, buried beneath the weight of unspoken anger and fear. The final letter, the last one in the box, contained a simple plea. I forgive you, my dear brother. I just want you to know that. I want us to make peace before it's too late. Tears filled the eyes of the family members as they listened to the words. This was a story they had never known. The dog had been barking not just to reveal a hidden letter, but to uncover the truth about the family's fractured past and the chance for healing that had been lost. The dog had somehow known that this moment was critical. Its barks had been a call to uncover the past, to bring the family together in a way they never thought possible. The deceased had passed on, but now, through the dog's actions, the family had an opportunity to heal. They could face the past, acknowledge the hurt, and perhaps, in time, find a way to forgive and move forward. For the family, this moment was more than a revelation. It was a miracle. The dog, whose barks had once been a source of frustration, had now become a symbol of redemption. The dog had brought the family closer to the truth, and in doing so, it had given them a gift they could never have imagined. A second chance at healing, a second chance to make peace. The letters were just the beginning. The discovery was only part of the miracle that had unfolded that day. After the letters were read, the family sat in silence, reflecting on what had just been revealed. The miracle wasn't just a revelation of the letters. It was the way in which the dog had led them to the truth. The family decided to contact the estranged sister. Though it had been decades since they had spoken, they knew it was the right thing to do. They sent the letters to her, unsure of what her response would be. But when she received them, her emotions were overwhelming. She had never stopped loving her brother, and despite the pain of the past, she felt a sense of peace knowing that the truth had finally come out. When the family came together to share their emotions, they realized that the healing process had already begun. The dog had been the catalyst, its barks and loyalty unlocking the doors to a long-forgotten past. It had given the family a chance to start anew, to reconcile, and to find forgiveness. For the dog, the mission was complete. The dog no longer barked. It sat quietly beside the family, its eyes filled with an unspoken understanding. The miracle was not just in the discovery, but in the love and redemption that followed. The family could now move forward, not weighed down by the past, but empowered by the truth. And as for the dog, it fulfilled its purpose, bringing healing, love, and hope to a family that needed it most.